calling on Rush to allow a fair and timely election process and to negotiate a union contract to protect nurses' working conditions and patient safety. In a statement, a Rush spokesperson says the hospital is aware of the election petition and will be discussing the topic with their nursing team over the next several weeks. Michael Madigan's attorneys were back in court again today. This time, they were asking an appellate court to overturn multiple convictions from Madigan's high-profile trial last year. That's when a jury found the former longtime Illinois House Speaker guilty on 10 charges relating to 2 separate corruption schemes. Madigan is currently serving a 7.5-year sentence in federal prison. It's not immediately clear when the appellate court will issue its ruling. And here's a pretty sweet story for you, literally. Chicago is getting the Candy Hall of Fame. The 60,000 square foot facility will be located on the Mag Mile and celebrate all things sweet. The National Confectionery Sales Association announced the permanent attraction today, saying Chicago was selected after a national search. The city has a deep candy history with some of the country's most recognizable companies like Ferrara, Mars, and Wrigley having all been located here. In fact, at its peak, 100 Chicago candy companies produced a third of all candy in the United States. Project is slated to open in the summer of 2027. For more on the city's candy history, be sure to watch Chicago Stories Candy Capital. You can find it at WTTW.com/candy. You may want to have some candy on hand for that one. Up next, one-on-one with congressional candidate Daniel Biss right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
Evanston Mayor Daniel Biss won the Democratic primary for Congress in Illinois' 9th Congressional District last month. He'll face Republican John Ellison and Independent Delilah Barrera in the November general election for the seat in this heavily Democratic district. In a crowded primary field, Biss won with 29% of the vote, edging out strong challenges from candidates Kat Abugazale and Laura Fine and many other contenders. If elected, he would represent a district that includes parts of Chicago's North Side, Evanston, Glenview, Gilmer, and Algonquin. Joining us now is Democratic 9th Congressional District candidate Daniel Biss, who is currently the mayor of Evanston. Congrats and welcome back. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Brandon. It's great to be here.
So as we mentioned, hotly contested, 15 candidates
Yes.
running for the 9th District. We were talking before we came on, that makes for a very different kind of campaign. Why do you think your message resonated with voters?
You know, one thing that we stressed throughout the campaign is that in this moment of emergency with Donald Trump as the president and the fundamental values and priorities of our community under threat, we need somebody with 2 qualities: the ability to fight and win inside of government and the ability to fight and win out on the streets as an activist. Because, by the way, this moment will not be solved without a movement of people rising up across the country to demand something different. And I believe I've shown both of those qualities, and I think that helps set me apart in this very crowded field.
Now, that said, you received, as we mentioned, 29.5% of the vote. The next 2 candidates at nearly 26 and 20% of the vote. What does that tell you about the constituents that you are running to represent, and how do you plan on reaching out to them?
Well, I'm really glad you pointed this out, and I'm very clear and humble about this. 70% of the people voted for someone besides myself. And so our party and progressives in our community, but our whole community, because listen, there's so much at stake in this moment. Every day brings more alarming, terrifying, horrifying, sickening news from Washington, and we need to fight back together, unified.
This race was also controversial for the amount of money that went into it, and you had criticism for one of your opponents, Laura Fine, for receiving funds from AIPAC supporters. What is the role of big money in politics right now?
Well, it's troubling, right? We just saw, not only in our campaign, but in campaigns for the 4 open house seats as well as the Senate seat, giant big money. AIPAC in our race swooping in to influence races, which is bad enough, but doing it with these massive amounts where the whole goal was we're going to spend millions and millions, drown everybody out, and swamp a race. And one thing that was particularly troubling about the way AIPAC handled this was they hid it. They set up shell super PACs with funny electorate about where the money was coming from and why. And I'm really glad that the voters seem to see through it and respond accordingly, which is so important in this moment. If we're going to save our democracy, we need people to understand where the money's coming from and what to do about it.
Just earlier today, DNC members rejected what was a symbolic report for Israel impacting the Democratic Party right now.
Well, and I was disappointed by that decision at the DNC today, by the way. I think it's important for the Democratic Party to send a clear message. Here's where we stand on dark money, and here's where we stand on these key issues. Listen, the conduct of the Netanyahu government in Gaza, in the West Bank, the violence, the killing, the utilization of starvation as a weapon of war, it's unacceptable. And I think the overwhelming majority of Democratic voters feel that and know that. And I think they're looking for candidates who are willing to stand up to that and not kind of toe a hard line, far right party line, which is really what AIPAC demands.
During Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago last fall, a video of you circulated confronting former commander-at-large of Border Patrol, Greg Bavino. That video, of course, went viral. How do you think that interaction, how do you think that read during the campaign? How did that play?
Deeply traumatized by the violence, the brutality, the indiscriminate racism of Operation Midway. The forefront of most of our minds as we were trying to figure out how do we heal as a community, how do we fight back against Trump, and who do we put in office to really be fighting in the most aggressive way possible, using every tool at their disposal. And unfortunately, as mayor of Evanston, I had the responsibility of showing how I fight back against ICE, and I think that was important in the campaign.
Several leaders, both in the Democratic and Republican parties, they've called for this president to be removed from office via the 25th Amendment, including former supporters Marjorie Taylor Greene, even Alex Jones. As a Congress member, would you support invoking the 25th Amendment if needed?
Of course. I would support invoking the 25th Amendment. I would support impeachment. The way this president has been speaking and acting with the war in Iran and launching an illegal war, but now with the rhetoric that he's using, with the threat to wipe out a civilization, right? We're kind of used to having this attitude of, oh, that's just wacky Donald Trump, let's not pay too much attention. We can't afford to treat this kind of threat of genocide, threat of an obvious war crime as just something to roll our eyes at. This is dangerous, it's wrong, it's immoral, it's a threat to our core values, and it's a threat to America's ability to ever enter into productive partnerships with any other country. We've got to end it. This person is dangerous, and he's obviously falling apart mentally. He's got to go.
A key focus of your platform has been affordability, which we've been hearing from a lot of Democrats this campaign season, particularly with regards to childcare, healthcare, tariffs, and housing. How do you plan to make all of that better for your constituents if elected?
Well, I hope we have a long time. There's a lot of different issues, but they're critical, and I'm glad that you asked about them. You know, as mayor of Evanston, I've really focused on this. I see later on in this show, you've got people talking about some of the housing policy changes that are being talked about in Chicago. We've been pushing that direction in Evanston to make sure that housing is affordable in Evanston. On healthcare, I'm a proud, long-time supporter of Medicare for All, which I think is the most efficient way to get healthcare access to every single American, irrespective of employment status or any other condition. You know, I think that Donald Trump is, unfortunately, after promising to be a president who would bring prices down on day one, he's driven us in the opposite direction through his tariffs, but also through his immigration policy. And I wanted to connect your previous question to this one. An American economy that thrives is one that has a sane, functioning immigration policy that welcomes people in through a functioning system of legal immigration. And that's a part of making sure that prices go in the right direction.
If elected, some residents have expressed disappointment that you'd also be leaving without finishing your second term as mayor of Evanston. If elected, what lessons would you be taking from Congress or taking to Congress from your position as mayor?
Well, so many. I feel that this is really a gift. The experience of having been the mayor of a city and managed a municipal budget is